Hi, my name is Judy Kihumba. I'm a sign language interpreter and an advocate of maternal mental health of deaf mothers. I am a mother of 2 beautiful girls. I have another one who I have adopted, not officially, but I live with her. And I am excited to be here. I'm also an International Women's Day Award winner of Zuri Awards, and in this year, 2022. I was born and brought up partly in Nyeri, and I have schooled in different schools, but I would say my primary school, that is, I was in different schools, but finally I ended up at Reverend Muhoro School for the Deaf. That's a high school, it's a national school for the deaf, where that was my first time to interact with the deaf people. It's not because I was deaf, I never went there because I was deaf. I found myself, there was an issue at home that my parents were not able to support me to go to high school, the school I was admitted to join. And so I went there for 1 term. I schooled, and then I had to break again because I couldn't raise my school fees. So I stayed at home for 2 years, then went back. And why I went back to the same school was because I was looking at the gap, that the years that I had lost within. So I thought the best thing was to go to a school that they already understood me, and at least they knew my background. So that's how I joined the deaf world. It was not easy. It's not like I just joined the school and entered into the deaf world. The first few months, or the first few, I would say the first term especially, I never wanted anything to do with them. Actually, I was bitter. I was bitter because I wanted to join my school. It was Chinga Girls. Of course, I needed to be that girl, you know. But that's why I didn't want to be in that school. That's one. Number two, I was feeling like these people don't understand where I'm coming from. And I had a lot of bitterness why my parents were not able to take me to school. So with that, I was feeling I didn't fit in their world. But somehow they showed me a lot of love. Then I didn't know sign language. I didn't even have interest. But the way they kept coming to me, actually my sign name, when you join in the deaf world, they give you a sign name instead of, my name is Judy, so instead of signing Judy, they just give you a sign name. And this time they gave me a sign name, which is this. And they used this because my hair was always held at the back and I was always on the books. I was not focusing on other people. And their friendship, them trying to reach out to me, them trying to talk to me, made me love the sign language. And I became, when I entered into their world, I even became the school captain. So I was there with them, and that's how I joined the deaf world. After high school, of course, I passed my KCSE, and I was hopeful again to join the university, but of course, I didn't perform to the best, but I found myself, I went to St. Paul's University, where I did communication and PR, and here I was thinking of the deaf people still, because I was looking at the communication gap between them and the hearing world. I would say we have only 2 cultures, the deaf world, because they are the ones who, when we talk about other disabilities, they hear. So as much as we talk about them, they are categorized in the hearing world by the deaf, and we have the hearing people. So we kind of have only 2 worlds. And I was looking at the communication between the deaf and the hearing. That's why I did communication. And in this process of doing communication, still my friends were deaf people, so I was kind of still moved. They would call me, somebody needs, even family gatherings, they would call me, we have a family gathering, come interpret for me. And through that I saw there was a need for me to advance my sign language skills now from school, because in school you are just given a certificate to show that you've been signing, but a qualification that you can be a sign language interpreter, you don't get that much. So I went to University of Nairobi, and I did sign language, basics, sign language and interpretation level. Then there were only 2 levels, and I did them, and I knew that I joined this world with a reason, this deaf world with a reason. And I have been in different organizations focusing on disability, and I've been working as a sign language interpreter in different capacities. And in the middle of the deaf world, okay, when I started, I didn't tell you I'm married. I'm sorry, I'm married. And in the process of life. In 2018, I was expecting, and I was 5 months pregnant, and that's the time I lost my dad. And in the process of the emotional and the whole process of grief, I lost my pregnancy. And that's the time I realized, because majority of the people who would come to see me around that time, they were coming to see me because of my dad's loss, my deaf friends. But they didn't know what I was going through. I was mourning a double loss. And it took time for me to let it go. And when we would talk with them, and I opened up to a few that I had lost a pregnancy, then I realized in the deaf world, it's like a normal thing. Actually, the way they comfort you, it's normal, you will heal, get another baby. But for me, that was deeper than that, because they lose a pregnancy for different reasons. One may be because they was misdiagnosed. One is because you did something that you're not supposed to do. Sometimes it's because lack of information. So for that reason, I said, I think I need to look on this thing in a different angle. And I still conceived again, and in 2019, I gave birth to my beautiful girl. And here, because I think of the losses, because I got postpartum depression. And postpartum depression, most of the times, it manifests like any other depression. So sometimes it's either triggered by something, other times it's not even triggered by anything, it just happens. And this time I knew I had losses. I had lost my dad, I had lost a pregnancy, and I had lost a very close friend around that time whom I nursed to her death. She was diagnosed with cancer. Within a very short time, about 3 months, she was dead. So I had so much that I had not dealt with. And through this, I got postpartum depression, and this where now it was a whole turnaround. You know, when with the postpartum, there are times you are very happy, you welcome visitors, and you are happy, you enjoyed with them. Then all of a sudden, the emotions go high. You know, you are in different world. And for this reason, my dear friends again would not understand what exactly are you going through. What some would say, "Hey, Judy, you become very proud." Because there are times they would come and I'm not leaving my bedroom. There are times I don't want to see anyone. So for that reason, I realized, again, in my work with the doctors and therapists, I realized as much as I've been in this world, I don't think the deaf people, especially the deaf women, really understand what it means to have a postpartum depression. And within them, as we used to talk, then I realized they have been going through, some have gone through this, but in different ways. Some have even felt rejected by their families because the families don't understand exactly what they are going through. And this is how Talking Hands, Listening Eyes was founded. And again, something very unique happened on 7th of November 2020. I received a phone call from one of the hospitals in Nairobi that they had a deaf person. Why they were calling me? Because they were calling me as a sign language interpreter to go assist them of a deaf girl who was there, and they didn't have a means of communication. And because she was kinda not sure she was giving birth. So when I went there, we communicated. She got a baby girl, a very beautiful baby girl. And in the process, she was like, for her, when she fell pregnant, because it was this COVID time, there was so much happening. When she fell pregnant, she was not ready to take care of a baby. Reason, she's an orphan. She was on school attachment, so she had not even cleared school. And she was feeling she didn't even have a job. She was not ready to be a mother at that point. And her friends had advised her, again, the miscommunication, the misinformation I talked about, that if you take conch tea leaves, you lose the pregnancy. So all through her 9 months period, she was taking very conch tea leaves, and she was not feeding well, because for her, the pregnancy was coming out. Even this day that she went to the hospital on labor pains, she didn't go to the hospital because she was going to deliver a baby. She was going that the pregnancy is out. We are going on a short break, and we'll come back with more stories on Talking Hands, Listening Eyes on postpartum depression. So when I was called and we had a time, actually the doctors, when they called me, whoever called me from the hospital told me, come with some baby clothes. So of course I took my daughter's, because she was small, I took my baby's clothes and went with them to the hospital. And with her we started a journey, because I realized she was somewhere in Dandora where, again, the neighbors didn't understand her. So I was the only person who would go out, go early in the morning or sometimes late in the evening after work. I go wash for her, do everything that a new mom should be done for, and then leave. And this was a very hard time for me because it was curfew time. And I remember one time I had not watched news for some time, so I didn't know that the curfew had been moved to 7, and I'm on the road driving, and I was caught by the police asking me, where are you from? I'm like, I am not even aware time has been moved because I was so busy with her. And this time, the neighbors, because they don't understand her language, when the baby cries, they would throw stones on her rooftop to wake her up, because they were thinking that if they throw the stones, it will wake the mother. To them, the mother was asleep, but it was totally different. Little did they know they were affecting the baby. They were traumatizing the baby. This baby is hearing, so that shout, those noise of the stones was very traumatizing for her. And so in the process, again, we go back to the deaf communication. One night, she SMS'd me in the night that the baby had fever. And I was SMSing her. We were talking on SMS. I told her, remove her clothes and leave her with a vest. She texted me back asking, what is a vest? And then I realized, wait a minute. Who taught me about baby clothes? Their names. Like, there's a romper, there's a socks. Of course, a socks you know because you've been with socks. But imagine a romper, a trouser, such small things. I realized the deaf people, they will just show you this is what I want, but they never know the names of, like, those hard names. So for this reason, again, I was like, now if this happens again, and you see now, it was curfew time, I couldn't go to her house at that late night. This time I felt, I think we need to pick her near our house, because this time was curfew time. We couldn't manage to go all the way to pick her and be with her. So in the morning, I go pick her. As we were talking, of course, I had to go so that we take the baby to the hospital. And I realized that because of this, the non-stop noise from the neighbors, the baby wasn't sleeping at all. And that means the mother was also not sleeping. And it was she's either holding the baby, and when she falls asleep with the baby, she can't hear the baby crying. So it was a whole lot of it was a whole mixture of many things with her, and through this she got postpartum depression. Again, being a first-time mother, she doesn't have a mom who will come to check on her. She had so many questions, and as first-time mothers, there are times even the nipples cracking. I remember hers was really bad. Me telling her you have to breastfeed her, show the baby, showing her how to hold the baby. It was a whole lot of work for me because I'm not there all the time. So there are times she just gives up. You come in the evening, you find she has not breastfed the baby. So through this, I thought, we move her closer to where we were living then, so that we could take care of her, because if she was near our house, it would have been easy to go and check on her. So we took her in. We actually, because it was Christmas time, this time that we were taking her in, we took her in to be with us for some time, then goes back to her house, which never happened. So we continued staying with her, and up to now we live with her. We have kind of, not officially, but kind of, she's part of our family. We live with her and her baby, and the baby just celebrated 2 years, and we thank God that the baby is healthy. The mother, we worked with her through counseling, through therapy, and now she's okay. She's doing amazing work. She's learning how to do pastry. So for me, I thank God that we worked with her. And through reaching out to her, so many other deaf moms reached out to me, and I realized there was a gap in the medical, I would say the healthcare, because when they go to the hospitals, either the doctors write to them on a paper, and sometimes the jargon they write, even us normal people who have gone to school, sometimes we don't understand what the doctors have written. So you can imagine a deaf mother reading and struggling to read what has been written. So through this, I realized that the deaf women miss a lot. And why I'm talking the deaf women, it's because I've been in this space. For me, I got my 2 babies through CS, so I don't know really much about labor ward. But when I started working with them and asking questions, I realized there's so much they don't know. You find some will tell you, when the doctor is telling them to push, especially those who are delivering on normal, either the doctor will do something, either they will open the tap of water or they splash the water on her. I have two who told me that whoever the midwife was splashing water on her, and when you splash the water, you push, the force. So I realized there's so much that we are not doing right for the deaf women, and that's how Talking Hands, Listening Eyes on PPD was born. It was born out of a need and seeing the gap. So I work with a pool of interpreters where we go to hospitals. When we have a deaf, and now that the deaf women know that this is what I do, they reach out to me. Even those who I don't know, they still reach out to me. So for me, it has been a journey, and that's how we started working with them. I realized there's so many who have gone through different issues within the maternal health, and they couldn't speak out because they never knew, they never got a safe space. So what inspires me every day is to see a deaf mom walk into the hospital and leave the hospital a happy mother. I have worked with some up to delivery ward. You know, where you see them giving birth and you are there with them throughout. For me, the joy of them holding a baby with them it's so amazing. For me, that's what makes me to keep moving on, to keep doing what I am doing. If you may want to find me, I am on social media. We are on social media, Talking Hands, Listening Eyes on postpartum depression. I also have my phone number, which I'll share, 0725 733 843. You can reach out to me in case you even have a deaf person out there, and especially deaf mothers, and you don't know how to talk to them, or even especially expectant ones, how to walk the journey with them. I'm always available. I'm always on a phone call, and if not, I'm not able to go there, I have a pool of interpreters whom I work with. My vision is to see us open a counseling center purely for women going through postpartum depression, because as I do this, I have realized it's a need, it's a gap in the country, and so many women, even those who are not deaf, they reach out to me. Early this year, we held our first baby shower for deaf moms. We made a group baby shower. We had 78 deaf moms who came, and we had from 6 months to pregnancy, a baby from 6 months and below. And we realized there was a huge gap because we had a pediatrician, we had a gynecologist, we had a nutritionist. You realize even the information they have, you find a deaf mom who has a baby who is less than 3 months, giving them salt to walambe chumvi so that they can, so that they say to them it's like sanitizing the baby. You know, all this misinformation. And again, even because we have a culture as hearing people, we bring it to the deaf people without explaining the deep meaning of what we are telling them. Like when I see mothers who have babies with hiccups, they tear a paper and put it on the face of the baby. But in the real sense, is it what should be done? Because they don't understand. They will just follow that because that's what they see other mothers doing it. So them, they copy. Sometimes they copy even the wrong information. Sometimes they copy even things that are not there. So for me, it's to see them reached out to, and I keep urging the Ministry of Health especially and the government to reach out to more deaf women, because the deaf women, the deaf people are struggling in healthcare world because nobody really understands them. I know I have worked with them to the hospitals where you find a doctor or a nurse who is a bit ignorant. They tell you, we always communicate, but I ask them, how do you communicate? We write down, or they can read my lips, but it's not all deaf people who can read lips. There are some whose education level are very low. And again, we go back to the deaf people, their education level is a bit low. Reason number one, their mothers or even their parents, unless like now, we don't have enough schools for them. We don't have readily available schools just like the able-bodied children. Again, not very many people within the family setup know sign language. So you find, again, they are left out in information part. So even their education is low. If my daughter can show her how to do homework, another mother with a deaf child will struggle to show her baby to do homework. So those small things that we think they never matter, they really affect the deaf people. So I keep urging the Ministry of Education to consider more deaf schools, and also the Ministry of Health to consider deaf people and put us in a policy making, you know, where the policies are made, because we always focus on the hearing world. But because when I say of hearing world, I include even the other disabilities in this world. But very few people focus on the deaf world, and this is where we have a big gap. As I call on the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health to work together with us, I'm calling to NGOs, organizations, and even individuals who may want to partner with us, because this gap is very huge. And as talking hands, listening eyes, we can only do one part, because there are so many things we can do together to reach out to us, and we work together, we partner together so that we can make the deaf world a better space for them. And also even the diaper companies, all the baby products that need to be given out, the products that babies use, you realize that enough mothers are balancing, especially this time round, balancing between buying a diaper for a baby or buying food for the baby. So you realize there's so many struggles around them. So I'm calling out to everybody who has a part in the baby world to reach out to us, because we can walk this life together and make it a better space for the deaf mothers.